Welcome everyone to the Voice of Terminus show. I'm joined by Lex. Say hello, Lex.
Hello.
And we have the wonderful Shy in the background. Say hello, Shy.
Hello.
And Shy will be chiming in today as well in this topic we have planned. We're going to look at the...
Did you just say Shy will be chiming in?
Yep.
Wow.
Do you people see what I put up with? Do you see what I put up with?
Josh couldn't make it today. He had real life issues to deal with all of a sudden, so he's going to go and take care of that. But he should be back next week. So, like I said, we're going to talk about the harvesting update that was in the October newsletter. I'm going to link it to all of you so that you can all see what we're going to be talking about. So, as we know, VR currently have planned for the harvesting portion of Pantheon fishing, gathering, mining, salvaging, scavenging, skinning, and woodcutting. Lex, is there anything on there that or anything that's not on there that you would see or like to see added, or something that basically stands out for you from those?
Well, I know it's probably getting into mucky waters here, but I actually kind of wanted to see like some kind of farming, where you could grow herbs that you need or whatever, you know. But that would also probably require that you have to have some sort of housing for people to do that in.
Yeah.
So it makes sense why it's not there, because housing hasn't even been discussed yet.
Well, it's been mentioned though that they could consider additional ones later on,
yeah.
And this could be something that's added in once the whole guild aspect's taken into account, the housing aspect. Maybe guilds will have the chance later on to farm on their own guild halls and whatnot, and obviously have to maintain them, and they could add, you know, all kinds of mechanics into it. But obviously, you know, that's going way into the future. That'll be a different topic maybe to discuss at a later point. But yeah, I definitely agree. I would have loved to have seen farming, especially with the screenshots we saw a few months back, where they showed at the outskirts of Thronefast, they had this house with an apple tree in a garden plot. Then they had this plot of dirt where there were a bunch of apple trees. So yeah, I can see where you're coming from with that. But yeah, as far as these all go, everything's in there. You got your fishing, your gathering, your mining, skinning, woodcutting, everything that you would expect. That's also in, well, almost every other MMO out there. And then they've added salvaging and scavenging, which we'll get into a little later, which is very interesting to see. And brings true immersion.
I mean, all in all, I mean, they do have a very well-rounded. My English is just like today, so I'm going to apologize. I can't think of words, but yeah, I mean, it really covers a very wide spectrum.
Yeah,
there are a few cracks that can be filled down the line, but honestly, there's something there for everybody. Definitely.
So, those are the ones that they are basically looking at this point in time, in the current stage that they're in. They are open to consider maybe additional ones. Obviously, that will come down to how it would fit into the game and how they could basically implement it, time-wise, the workload behind it and everything, without disrupting the core function of harvesting. So we'll have to see what VR do, but we can see that they are open to, you know, at least exploring possible future ventures with this, and that they really do care about their game. So let's go through this. One of the questions was, can players learn all of those skills, or will they be limited to choosing one or a few? Short answer is that basically anybody will be able to harvest as they wish. Obviously they would have to have the appropriate gear, you know, the tools to do this, maybe the appropriate level to harvest certain nodes and everything, which is I'm perfectly fine with that, to be honest. I like that approach. I've always been one to go out there and maximize all my harvesting skills in some form or fashion. It's always handy to have, especially when you look at the crafting aspect of the game as well, where you might need to utilize all of those skills to unlock a special item that you need, and so forth. And yeah, so I'm happy with that. But one thing I do want to touch on, limiting it to a chosen few, one or a few. I actually like that as well, but that would kick into something completely different here. And if you guys all remember, a while back, I think it was Jop who did the interview. He mentioned they're looking at ways to maybe bring perception to crafting. They could go one further and add that also to harvesting as well. And that's where I see one or few, where basically at a later point in time, you could then go on a speciality path, where you would choose maybe one or two of those to master. And through perception, that could unlock certain abilities, certain advantages for you. What do you think about something like that, Lex?
I actually agree, because I find that the problem is when you become more inclusive in stuff like skills for gathering, what that does, it actually excludes other people from you having an experience or interaction with you. So, like, say for instance, we can go all gathering skills to max level, right? Let's just assume that. Then why do I ever really need to talk to anyone else that might be gathering? You know,
yeah.
To me, and this is just my opinion here, MMOs, the core of it that makes it ooey chewy good is the socializing, you know? And right there, because I have max gathering skills, I never have to talk to Yarn because he gathers, you know, he can mine really well. Whereas if you can do everything to a certain point, there's still room so that you will have to talk to someone else that shares an interest that you have as well. They like gathering, I like gathering. I have a reason to be social with these people. Maybe we hit it off. Maybe I make a friend.
So,
you know?
Yeah, definitely. Shai, you want to add something to this one, or?
Not really. I mean,
okay.
Lex really said how I feel about it, because I mean, if you've got everybody who can do everything, you don't need anybody, and that kind of takes away from being in an MMO if you're playing a single player game inside an MMO.
So one of the things that I was looking at when, you know, bringing up the perception for this particular portion, you know, the harvesting, and going into maybe specializing in mining and, you know, wood cutting, for instance. The advantages I would like to see, or, you know, or what they could possibly do, is if you look at nodes, for instance. Maybe you have a node somewhere in the world, a mining node. For the normal harvester, he'll bang on it. He'll get his 5-10 stone or whatever he's gathering from that. But me being a master miner, I might actually see that this isn't just a node, it's actually a vein that leads further, deeper into the rock side, the mountain side or whatnot, and I would basically be able to, obviously I would have to have the appropriate gear for that, the tools, etc., the appropriate perception level, but, you know, I would be able to utilize by getting more out of that node itself. That would be one of the advantages I could see possibly happening. The same with wood cutting. Maybe you cut better. Maybe normally you would just chop it down, you'd have it in rough pieces of wood, you get 4 or 5 chunks of wood out of a tree, and then you're done. But because I'm a master woodcutter, I have a better precision when I'm axing away at this tree, and therefore I can gather maybe more, or maybe I can gather additional bits and pieces out of the tree.
Yeah, I mean, if you're, let's say, again, hypothetically here, that you can master one. You know, the rest you can get to, say, we'll say 100 out of 200. Well, if that's what you're going to do, there really does have to be a benefit to it. And it has to be a benefit that makes it worth it. You know, saying like, you know, that, oh, you can just do this higher tier stuff. That's all fine and good, but honestly, that's what everybody does.
Yeah.
Which in the end is like one more thing we've seen again, which in the end is one more thing that's boring. You know, do something else a little different. We know VR is starting to become rather famous for putting these tiny little twists in everything, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, you know, here's a piece of paper. Oh, we twisted it.
Yep, exactly.
So why not? Can we expect to see something like that? I really hope that we see something beyond this skill is needed for this node.
Yeah.
Give me increased chance to find something, or maybe a way to do something special. Just I don't work on the game. I don't know, but I'm just saying, if it's the same old boring stuff, we're gonna see another rant from me.
It would basically add to the core game as well. You know, crafters seem to be a very in focus part of the game. Not just from the adventuring side or from the crafting side itself. You know, they have mentioned that you might need to have people in your group that can craft while you're out there adventuring. Crafters might need adventurers to go through certain dungeons to get certain special crafting gear, crafting loot, and you name it. So you know, and this would add another portion to it as well. You would also have the harvesting community out there doing their thing, and it would kind of be its own social aspect of the game. So you're basically moving up a level. You have your adventuring part of Pantheon, you have your crafting part of Pantheon, you have your harvesting part of Pantheon, and now you're adding the social aspect to it, because maybe you're going to need all three. You're going to need them in your group maybe at a later point to do something, and that adds to that social aspect and brings out a new level of how MMOs are perceived and interacted with. You know, I've always liked or hoped to see a game where, hey, it's an MMO, but I don't want to be an adventurer. I want to be a crafter. I just want to craft things for society, for the town that I'm living in, for the people that I'm engaging with, and just, you know, craft stuff and sell my wares. If that's what I want to do 24/7 for the next 10 years, then, you know, let me at it. It's the same with the harvesting. You know, add that little twist to it, and like you said, Lex, they seem to always take a piece of paper and add a twist to it, and it's brilliant. I like it. Right. Anyway.
Well, it's like I just saw in chat that someone mentioned Star Wars Galaxies. There is a spectrum here where a game becomes too much like real life, and then there's a point where it becomes too just crazy, you know. Yeah. And I mean crazy as in like the Korean, oh look, I can jump 40 feet in the air and glide halfway across the map with my bare feet.
Yeah.
Because that makes sense. So if you can find ways to spark social interactions and involve crafting and grouping, or I say grouping, but I mean grouping and or raiding, my mind is going to be blown away, because we've seen people try it in the past, but the problem is that they've always they didn't even half-ass it. They 1/4-assed it.
Yeah, and
you know.
And again, you know, this is something as well that, would we like to see it? Hell yeah. Does it have to be done at launch? Hell no. You know, no. This is something that they could do and release years to come. You know, as long as they lay the groundwork and leave options available and room to basically expand on what they've got, then, you know, they're set to be able to bring their game up a notch,
right?
You know, in years to come. And from what we've seen so far, drifting a bit away from the topic here, if we look at their design philosophy and everything, and what they've shown us, what they've talked about, what they've revealed to the community, they seem to have a knack for that. They seem to be doing that already. They seem to be leaving room. When we did the lore interview as well, they left out certain pieces, or for the possibility of expanding on something. You remember when we talked about that picture from Black Rose Keep that they showed off with the moon, and we saw another moon somewhere else, and it could have been a different planet. They didn't go into specific details, but those are the kind of things that they've set out to do already. They are planning for the long run, for years to come. Right. And that's, you always hear the EverQuest community talking about, give us a reskinning and boom. It's kind of the same thing with Pantheon. Leave options and you're set. Your milestones are set. You have Pantheon 1.0, 3 years down the road it's Pantheon 2.0, and so forth and so forth. The jokeable vision of Brad himself, Pantheon in 10 years, virtual reality, Pantheon and Minecraft. That isn't actually a it might have been said in a sarcastic way, but I think there's some truth to that as well. In some ways, if they set the stones right, because technology is always advancing. They're using an engine that can utilize those advancements going forward as well. So, yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
I say I'm a little skeptical of the Minecraft meets EverQuest kind of thing, But I'm a developer. I know what's involved, and even from a business standpoint, I look at it like, no.
Well, you don't have to go full Minecraft. There's things. No. Our guild discussion on the guild housing, for instance, comes into that example where that Minecraft would come in. But that's a different topic. Right. And if you haven't seen that, guys, go check that out. Anyway, let's go move on. So, there was a question about what's different about the usual suspects: fishing, skinning, mining, woodcutting, and gathering in Pantheon. They didn't go quite much into detail, but basically, they're in the prototyping phase for each of these harvesting skills, and it's basically hard to say how different they will be from one another. Now, I personally do hope that some of these skills have some unique features to them, where it's not just, hey, I've got my pick and I go bang, 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 and I'm done, or I take my fishing rod out and throw it into the water. I'd like to see some kind of, we talked about this with the fishing, I think, in a previous show, with some kind of mini game when they talked about basically finding hidden treasures and stuff like that. I like to see something different than the usual suspects of how it's approached, and obviously that's something that they also will look at and explore at a later point. What about you, Lex? How do you feel about the different harvesting skills? Would you like to see something different for each?
I'm not a gatherer. I'm not a crafter. And that's just from every MMO that has come before Pantheon. I just don't do it. They're to me, they are boring to the point where I would rather stab myself in the eye with a rusty fork. Even like my wife, she loves fishing in MMOs. Loves it to death. To me, I might as well be sitting out in the middle of nowhere pressing a button, because that's about how much fun I'm going to have. It's like, if you can find a way to turn it into some kind of a mini game, it doesn't have to be complex. It just has to be engaging. And that would turn me from I'm not even going to look at this stuff to, I wonder, maybe I'm going to go try this.
Yep. So, let's have a look. What's the next one? So, this one's actually pretty interesting. This one we're going to dive into a little bit. My mind went completely in a complete different direction when this was done. You mentioned tools in response to the previous question. Are they simply required for harvesting, or will there be alternate versions of tools? If so, how will they affect harvesting, if at all? Now, at the moment, they're basically just necessary to interact with your certain harvesting nodes and everything. But they would like to explore upgraded tools, which I dig. I think that's a wonderful approach, and as soon as I read that sentence, that took me to a complete different franchise, took me back to Landmark, the way that was approached, because that was actually pretty cool and very smart the way they did it. You started off with your basic pick, which was your stone pick, and you could gather stone, sand, copper, tin, agate, and stuff like that. And then through those components that you gathered, you could yield the next pick, which would allow you to access newer materials like iron and silver and so forth and so forth. So you basically tiered up to the next level. I personally think I would love to see something like that, where your tools basically have a functionality. So the ultimate goal is basically to get the ultimate pick, which would be a T. You know, in this case, if we go from the standard level, max level 50, would be a T5 pick. Now, obviously, that would take time to get there. You know, this is also something that, you know, I don't want to be able to go out there, gather all the materials, and have this pick within a week. Obviously, it would have to take time getting there. You know, and that's the same with the harvesting. Harvesting should be a exploration for me. It should be something that isn't necessarily done straight away. But yeah, I definitely dig that. And they also talked about, you know, magical ores and stuff like that. I would like to see where you might need to yield certain magical components to a certain pick to be able to go and mine them, or to a certain axe to go and cut that special tree, or that skinning knife to go and skin that mystical creature, or even, you know, maybe there's some mystical ponds out there, and you need a mystical fishing rod to go and be able to go and fish in those waters. Stuff like that. I think that would be great, and it would add another time sink component to the game as well, and another thing for us to do when we're not necessarily focused on the adventuring side, or the raiding, or the grouping aspect going through dungeon. What do you think, Lex?
Yeah, I like the tiered system personally, even though, as I said, I'm not a gatherer, I'm not a crafter. From a design point of view, it's actually a smart idea, because you're actually gathering to go into your crafting, to go back into your gathering. So there is a point where there is a small percentage of the materials that you're gathering that you can guarantee are going to be consumed just to progress yourself.
Yep.
You know, so it's less stuff you have to worry about getting shoved into the economy. It does make gathering a little more interesting. There are problems with it though. Like, we'll assume you can go up to tier 5 picks for mining ore. Now, if they want to go like crazy resource sink to manage the economy, maybe these picks can break. So how difficult will it be to make that again? That's where the problem is going to lie, because if it's too difficult to make that tier 5 pick after you got the first one, I probably will stop right there.
You know, that's a very interesting point you make there. I would definitely like to see the picks or the tools that we have to gather actually degrade over time. You know, the mining pick, you know, I'm mining stones unendlessly. I'm going through the mountains left, right and centre with my pick and banging around. It should wear off at time. It should have a wear to it. And, you know, I can then take it to a crafter to go and sharpen again, or something like that along the lines. You know, and
I mean, if they do a degrade system where it's just a simple matter of repairing your equipment, that would be much better than, you know, it breaking and you have to recraft it.
Yeah.
For me, anyway, and I'm taking this from a person who doesn't like to do this stuff. Well, because to me, it's a small inconvenience versus, oh god, I got to spend like a week trying to get this thing again.
Well, this is where a double functionality comes into salvaging, for instance. Maybe your pick broke down, You know, it's broken. It's shattered into 3 different pieces. Now you salvage it. Maybe that's a way of, you know, maybe they could add a double usage to the salvaging. You know, it's not just for the world itself, it's also for your tools, where you salvage it again, and maybe there's a few components missing, some regular components that are missing now, and I have to go out and go and get those rather than getting that rare stone or that rare piece of wood to make the handle of the pick and everything. And that goes for all the other skills obviously as well. So maybe that's a way of doing it as well, where your salvaging actually becomes double important to you. Maybe.
To be honest, out of all of them, salvaging is the one that appeals to me the most.
Yeah.
Because I'm the guy that I have my inventory full of junk because I don't know if I'm going to need it or not.
Yeah.
And I always forget to sell. So we kill a boss and I get a piece of loot, and all of a sudden I got to destroy something.
Definitely.
Well, depending on how many pieces you get from salvaging, maybe I can just keep a couple slots with salvaging components, so that when I salvage something, they just stack. You know, sort of like a reserved space.
Yeah,
it's what I would do. Rather than just being like, oh well, I'm just going to throw this away now.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at it economy-wise, both work fine. With the salvaging, you do have a little extra bit of trying to balance how those pieces interact with the economy. Are they going to flood? Because if you get like 4 items out of salvaging a breastplate, you know that's 4 more items in the world every time someone clicks that salvage.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's like 1 or 2 pieces, if it's mostly 1, sometimes 2, it's a little easier than 4, because now it's like, oh, half of the items we got to worry about.
So, coming back to, you know, having tiered tools, what about having tiered tools with variations on them? You could have maybe a pick. Maybe you could have a pick that hacks faster. Maybe you have a pick that has a wider yield. So basically, it would gather more resources or open up more available, or you know, open up a bigger yield for you. Something like that. Maybe you can have one that's faster, one that opens up a bigger yield for you, one that basically crushes faster.
So yeah, I like that idea because it goes back to making crafters even more useful, even if you're the one crafting it, because depending on how they have the crafting set up, maybe you can determine which one you're making by the materials. Maybe it's luck of the draw. And, I mean, you could do a lot of things to it. You know, like you said, faster mining time. Maybe it mines more. Maybe it has a chance of mining something that's 1 step up or 1 step down in this one node. So you're getting a broader spectrum. All 3 right there are valuable. I can see a use for all of them. Which one I would choose, I don't know. I'd have to see how the local server economy that I'm playing on evolves to figure out if I need more materials or I just need to get my materials faster.
Yep. Yeah, it definitely adds to that heartache. You know, what do I pick? But it's also one of those things where, you know, try it out. That's where the time sync comes in again. You know, you're actually testing out stuff. I'm sure it adds a bigger headache to VR as well. If they went down that path.
You know, you could also even have a tool that does, depending on what is done to it, could give it a higher chance of getting better quality materials. So you may get less yield, but they would be higher quality.
Yeah, so for example, you know,
I consider it.
You have like you have like a raw diamond.
Sorry.
So instead of getting like 10 low quality, you might get like 2 high quality.
I'm going to apologize right now because it's the first time Shai has actually talked in the middle of a show, and I really expected it to be something like, if you had a tool and we didn't have Lexer, I'd be like, damn. I was really expecting that.
I wasn't going to say that.
I know what I was expecting it.
Well, I was saying it after the show.
if you need a tool, I was like, burn.
Yep. So it's the same with the basically the way I would love to see it. You have your basic tools that are basically tiered, that have options to them, like you said, a bigger radius, or faster, or the chance for getting higher ups, or one down. And then you have your ultimately you would have another tool set which would hit on your mystical stuff, the magic stuff, magic ores and magic trees and mystical creatures and stuff like that. That's what I would like to basically. That would be my optimum.
Well, I mean, alternatively, you could get like an adornment or something that would allow you to turn your regular pick into something that can harvest magically.
Right. I mean, I think Hyper had mentioned sockets.
I really don't want to have a whole backpack full of tools.
Why not?
I don't want to have 15 different tools I'm carrying around.
Why not?
No? But yeah, I mean, maybe there's a way to augment them.
I've got fat loot. I've got better things to do with my.
But again, with that as well, I think there should be a lifespan on it. That magic should fade away.
Oh, definitely, and it should degrade. I mean, that would be another reason for crafters.
Right.
For them to go and repair your tools for you.
And this comes back to the adventurer side of things as well. Maybe you've got a wizard in your group. Maybe he can cast something on your tool, your mystical tool, that basically expands its lifespan. Or feeds it new energy. That gives the wizard something completely different to do, apart from what he already has at his arsenal. He's also affecting the way you harvest.
And actually, Yarn, thinking about that, just to play off of that one, you could, because the wizard is going to be master of the elements, maybe he can cast something on there so that you have a higher chance in hot areas to be able to harvest things from volcanoes, or maybe something cool.
Yeah.
So that you can harvest stuff out of the ice plains.
Definitely.
Just so you have the extra chance to be able to get a rare, or to be able to get high quality.
Right. There was a very good question. It wasn't tagged, but I'll address it now.
I hope Shy's grabbing these though.
But it was basically
I'm
concerned about min-maxing. Like, won't everyone use the same tool? I really don't think so, because the bonuses would actually end up being something that is very personal to you. What do you need right now? Do you, we'll say a really good sword that's selling takes 40 iron ore and 1 rare stone. Well, what's more important? I mean, is it really hard to get that rare item? Or is it a case where I'd rather get that 40 iron out of the way faster? I mean, it's really all subjective. Depends on how it goes. You might need one time and then one another time.
Yep. You might want to go out and start building your guild hall or something like that. So you're gonna go for the faster, the faster mining to get all kinds of different nodes and harvestable materials. And later on down the road, you might take a different pick because you're now looking for the rarer ones. That all comes into personal preference at the end of the day.
Yeah. Maybe you want stuff that's in this area or in this tier of gathering resource, but you could use some of the stuff from a step behind. So you'd want a broader spectrum of results.
Yep. So let's go and move on. This is another interesting one as well. Will harvesting give users any temporary buffs or enhancements? And they've mentioned basically that some of the more exotic harvesting nodes may provide buffs and possibly debuffs, and I actually like that. That also comes into touch with the perception for me as well, where I could see the perception utilize this one. They mentioned, for instance, let me have a look. You attempt to harvest from them. One example might be a plant that's gathered for use in mana potions. When harvested, the node might provide some raw mana to the user or a light mana regeneration buff. That's your beneficial. Then another example is you might be attempting to harvest Nightshade for the use in a poison. That might have a chance that the user is accidentally poisoned. You know, for a period of time when gathering that plant. Right. I do like that. That adds to the risk and the challenge, and that comes into your skill. That could really touch in and add to perception when it comes to harvesting as well. The more your perception is and understanding Nightshade, for instance, the better chances you might not get poisoned from it, because you have a better understanding. Or in general, your harvesting skill is of a higher tier or a better understanding, and therefore you're not going to get the chance of you getting poisoned is slimmed down. But in general, you know, they also said though that this would be sparingly. It wouldn't be something where you hit on every single node and you're getting a buff that lasts for an hour, or a debuff that lasts for an hour.
It'd be like rolling the dice, huh?
Yeah, exactly. It'd be a random thing that happens every, I don't know, X number of times, which I'm fine with. If it was something that basically would happen to me regularly, I wouldn't like that. I think that would kind of take away. I mean, all the other games have done this. They've added some kind of buff to it, and it does get boring because there's nothing. It is always mostly beneficial. There was nothing really. I do like the fact that it can be unbeneficial. It can poison me. It could slow me down. It could do this and do that. That's where the challenge comes in. You know, that's where I have to be very careful.
I hate to say it, but I don't like the idea of it.
Why not?
Like, let's say, for instance, you have skinning. There is a slight chance that you can get a buff from skinning that is plus 1 or 2% crit chance, or even just plus % damage. If I'm a raider, that means I have to get that buff before a raid, every time we raid, because it's going to be a part of maximum efficiency. And having to gather for possibly what might be hours before a raid? Oh, hell no.
Well, what about basically looking at the buffs or enhancements from a crafting and harvesting perspective only, not affecting your adventuring?
Yeah, then I'd be perfectly fine with it, because that would be a bonus of being a gatherer or being a crafter, where you would get something to help you along a little faster. Because let's look at adventuring. There are buffs that help adventuring.
Exactly.
There are buffs. Are there buffs that help crafters? No. Are there buffs that help gatherers? No. Most games have done gear.
Yeah.
But not buffs.
You know, and I'm on the same boat as you. If it's something that would basically affect how I could, you know, function in a raid or in a group or whatever, then, you know, that's definitely something that I would look away from as well, because I don't want that bonus. It's like, you know, hey, if I go gather, I'm getting a little bonus. You know, I don't want to have to go through that or have that as a possibility, because that's kind of mixing in too much with the adventuring side of the game. The group members, the players out there, they should be the people that enhance me or my group and whatnot, and nothing else. We should be able to have enough accommodation for buffs within our group, within our raid and everything from the people playing, and not have the world itself. Hey, don't forget to go salvage or go mining to get this buff and get that buff. Like you said, it's a huge nightmare. You spend hours before the raid doing that, or a day before.
And I say it's a nightmare because I know very well that I would do just that. But here's the thing, though. If I had to do that, that's several hours that I'm playing a game that's supposed to be for enjoyment, and I'm absolutely hating it.
Yeah.
You don't want to force people to play a game and part. You don't want someone to play a game and be forced to do something they absolutely hate. Because it doesn't matter if it makes me millions and millions of coins. If the fact of the matter is that I think it's boring and I hate doing it, don't give me a reason to do it, because I'll still do it. And then I'll leave probably a few months later because that's all I end up doing, and it's not something I enjoy.
Maybe you could get, instead of getting like buffs or enhancements, maybe if they do have a perception system for harvesting, maybe if you get that rare moment, you get an update to your perception. It skills up through this. You find a rare material, it skills up your harvest, your perception. Buffs and enhancements that I would like to see if I'm skinning something. Maybe I skinned it right, that my skinning knife gets a rare sharpness to it, because I skinned the bone as well at the same time, but with such a brute force that it's sparked, and now my knife's at a sharper yield. I can now have, maybe I got a little bonus of, like, you know, for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, that I can skin a little bit faster. Those are the kind of additionally to the tool it has already. So if my tool is...
Yeah, those kind of buffs are what I like to call pleasant discoveries. You know, you're just like, oh my god, look what happened. Hey, oh, and I can, instead of taking 2 seconds to skin this thing, it's taking me like a second or a half second, you know?
Yeah.
It might only last a few minutes. It might last an hour. But I get a buff doing a task, and the buff, the context of where that buff is useful is for that very task. So then I'm cool. It's when you get the overlap that really starts to bug me.
Yeah.
Because then that's when you start forcing people from one realm of gameplay into another, and in some cases, they don't have a choice because of the way they play or what they enjoy doing. Because with a raider, if you're a hardcore raider, every single advantage counts. Yep. So you do what you got to do. I mean, with the perception, I love the idea of perception being linked to gathering. Love it. It could level up my gathering. It could level up my perception. Honestly, I don't care either way. If I get this little pop-up that tells me, hey, you notice, I noticed something, and it could be just something small, like you notice that this iron node has been chipped already. So you walk around a little bit, you find another little pop-up going, oh, you found footprints and some rocks.
Yep.
You know, you keep following, you find a mob that's, you know, around your level, we'll say. You watch him stash his ore away.
Yep.
And leaves in a cave. You walk in and you take it. Hell yes.
Yep. We were going to get into that a bit later, but we got there now.
I know.
But yeah, that's exactly it.
That's the joy of being unscripted.
Exactly. You know, that's the thing. You know, the advancements I can see with. We're going to go talk a bit about this now, about the perception, where your perception skill is higher than mine. Like you said, this rock's already been cracked. You know, it's a peculiar rock. You know, it's very, very unusual. It's not your normal rock that you see in this area or this zone, and I can chip at it, but maybe my pick breaks, or maybe it just cracks open and nothing's revealed. But your perception is higher, and like you said, you can then see that, hey, maybe there's like little bits of this rock that's been, you know, spread out, and the footsteps are there, like you said. But you can identify that this isn't just normal bits of that rock. This is actually a rare material, a rare stone, for instance, out of that rock, and you could follow those footsteps. And again, it could lead into the fact that you could see maybe for the normal person gathering that or mining that rock, it looks like a normal node. But because your perception's so high, you can actually see it's a vein. Or it could lead into a cavern or a cave or something. And you you can identify that this piece of rock looks pretty unstable. But everybody else who's a normal miner, it looks normal. He wouldn't think twice about trying to go and bang against it. And voila! It reveals a bigger node for you to go gather.
Yeah.
Now those are the things that I could see happen with perception.
Oh god, I just had a funny thought. You get a perception ping. It basically tell you, like, there's something wrong with this iron node.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what, but it has you feeling on edge. So you walk away. Just because you're like, I don't know. You watch another player go up and just ping it, and all of a sudden a monster pops out.
Yeah.
I would die laughing. Oh my god.
Yeah, you could have that happen. Like, the mystical stones, for instance, or the mystical trees, or the mystical creatures. You don't have the perception, but hey, you gotta have it. You gotta give yourself a shot. You gotta try and see if you can take it down. And you hit that node, and boom, creatures come out from underneath the ground, or a horde of mystical monsters attack you. That would be great. That's adding to the exploration and danger side of harvesting.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine, though, if someone basically starts yelling for help in his own because he's being chased by, I don't know, like a gold ore golem?
Yeah.
Yeah, people are probably going to help him because, hey, they've never heard of a gold ore golem before.
Exactly.
And, someone needs help, so let's go. And, it's another case where something interesting happens, and you've just created an experience with other players around you. Even if you all die terrible deaths, you'd be like, hey,
and it's got nothing
over there.
And it's got nothing to do with adventuring.
I just had a hilarious thought, though, on piggybacking on that, Lex.
Uh-oh.
Is no, you get the perception saying there's something odd about this stone. So you walk away, and the next person who does it, and they hit the explosive part of the rock, and it explodes all over them.
Yeah,
that would be awesome.
And that could be something where like a rare node. Like,
and then after it explodes, you actually find something else there.
Exactly. That's another thing. It could be like Excalibur.
Well, other than the dead body of your friend that died, that popped it. But I mean, still, you'd find something cool.
Definitely, there's so many ways they could go with this. Imagine having mystical nodes out there where, hey, I'm going to see if I'm the next King Arthur and go and bang on this node with my normal pick, and boom, this ray of light shoots up into the sky, and now the weather's been affected. A storm starts brewing. And now you have a toxic rain coming down in that zone. That's toxic to everyone.
Well, see, as an adventurer myself, well, primarily an adventurer, if a gatherer can trigger some kind of event that brings people together, I'm still going to be just in awe, because we'll take Moko's. They're mining for ore near or even inside of a volcano. All of a sudden it triggers some kind of world boss.
Or the volcano.
Yeah, Moko's gonna probably crap his pants and run like crazy. But honestly, who would? Who wouldn't? I mean, but then the adventurers come together to try to take this thing down. The gatherers are all there because they want a piece of this thing, because maybe you can't gather around that area first while it's there because this aggro radius is too big. So they're going to help, even though it's not what they do. They're going to still try and have some fun with it.
What about?
And maybe the crafters get something out of it too. Yeah. Maybe a rare type of resource.
You could add another event that could happen. Take that lava situation. It's a dormant volcano. You're banging around, but you've got no business banging around on those stones with your pick. And now you make that volcano erupt. That could also be an event.
That's a mighty powerful swing you have there.
But those are things that you could add to it. Like, those would be little world events that could happen. Danger lurks everywhere. The volcano erupts. You gotta flee that zone. And not just you, but everybody. They'd be pissed. That zone's unavailable to you for the next couple of days. Ooh, that's bad. But yeah, I think that would be pretty cool.
It's bad, but it provides an opportunity to bring your community together.
Yep. Anyway, let's go and move on. So, they then go into salvaging and scavenging. They went into a bit of detail about it. So scavenging is a skill used when rifling through containers or rubbish in the world. Go empty those bins and get those recyclable bottles.
Get them on good habits young. While you're sitting on your butt playing a video game.
So they talked about basically barrels, crates, boxes, bags will be scattered throughout Terminus. Players will be able to dig through them and see what sort of goods they have, might find. Mostly it will be processed harvesting materials. Yep,
Mic
okay.
on. Powering
I thought
off.
I lost everybody there. Lex, can you still hear me?
I can, but you're crackly.
Powering on. Mic on.
My headset went off.
The wonders of technology. It was tired.
So basically, processed harvesting materials used in crafting, but sometimes you may find equipable, consumable items as well. Trash heaps, dragon hordes, shipwrecks, and other areas where piles of items have accumulated. So basically, that's what the scavenging is. I think that's great. Exploring shipwrecks and stuff like that. That's, that brings me on another adventuring side. Now, I don't necessarily have to go and I don't want to fight monsters, but obviously there might be some monsters on the shipwreck. But it gives me something to do as well when I'm not so focused on the adventuring side of things and digging through shipwrecks. I hope they expand on that and add maybe hidden ruins where you might find trinkets and stuff like that. That might have some kind of value.
Yeah. I mean, you could use that as a way to really encourage exploration, which would be amazing.
Yep.
Because in a lot of these games, they have very large maps, but there really isn't a whole lot to do with them. There are a few exceptions to the rule, like Guild Wars 2 is a pretty good exception there.
Yeah.
But finding those little caches would be just icing on the cake and make me want to explore even more.
Yep, definitely. And salvaging is basically an attempt to break down existing items into crafting components. Their example is basically you salvage an iron longsword. You would yield the iron items such as an iron ore, possibly an iron blade or a hilt, and maybe some leather from that. I think that's great.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
That's absolutely spot on. That's that's where I would put salvaging in. It actually, rather than what other games have done, where you can try and break down a socket that's on there to put onto a different thing, you actually break that down into its raw components. You have that leather wrap around the handle of the blade, the sword. You have the sword itself that's made out of iron, and then you have the hilt and everything. It's exactly how I pictured it being, and at the moment I can't see any way to upgrade this or go into different directions. Obviously, there's a risk that you might not be able to break it down into those complete components. You might only get the basic ore out of it. That's the only thing I could see being something that they could do to it, where there's a slight chance that you might not get anything out of it because you did it wrong.
I mean, what if you could get like a crafter's sub-combined item for it? Like a sword, maybe instead of getting the ore, you get the hilt and the blade, or the hilt and the blade.
Yeah.
Then you could possibly sell them to a crafter.
Yep.
Or if you're a crafter, use it in another creation. And I mean, you could go real specific, like, oh, this is a bronze blade. Because I know they had mentioned in the newsletter where it's like you get bronze ore from this or iron ore from this. It's like, well, yeah, but to be honest, if I'm gonna dismantle something, I'm probably gonna get the parts, and I'm not gonna get the raw material. Just a thought. I found that a little bit confusing.
Yeah. Let's go and look at the next one. How important will harvesting be, and what sort of impact do you foresee it having on the economy? Their aim is basically to have a large impact on the game's economy itself. With less reliance on a flood of harvesting nodes, the desired result is that there will be a bit more demand for harvesting materials than we've seen in more contemporary MMOs. As player adventure, they're going to need crafters to fill in the gaps in the equipable gear and consumable items at their disposal, and to upgrade their existing gear. Harvesting and its associated skills is going to provide the fuel for crafters to put and upgrade those items in adventurers' hands. So it already looks like they've gone that step further, where harvesting's going to it's basically going to be a secondary role that you take on, regardless.
Right.
And,
I mean, gathering is one of those things where you don't even have to be a crafter, but you can still benefit from it.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's always been I found it boring. So unless the economy was like screaming for a certain type of resource, I never bothered.
Yeah.
And I mean, because I was not a crafter, even less of an appeal for gathering. If the gathering does hold a very large impact on the economy, the key to that is going to be having a very large amount of instances where that crafting material will actually be useful. Not necessarily be profitable, but be useful. Like, can we turn it into, I don't know, like a throwing fast supply guy who uses it to justify, oh, we built the walls a little bigger or something, you know?
Mm.
Then, yeah, I mean, that's obviously going to have a huge impact, because now, let's say a quest like that where you have to gather materials to try and accomplish something on the server. It will actually change the world a little bit.
Mm.
Me, as someone who doesn't gather, I'm probably going to be buying materials to turn in so that I can get some credit, reap some kind of reward from this thing, which makes all the value of gathered items skyrocket, because I know there's more than just me that will be doing that. It might also force me to give gathering a look.
Can I quickly just step in there and ask you a question?
No.
Based on what you just said, basically, instead of you going out to gather the materials, you would buy them so you could get, take part in that.
Mm-hmm.
In other MMOs, it's often been the case that you get forced to go gather. There are quests out there where they say, go get, 10 iron ore, go get 15 oak wood, and this, that, and the other, because, that's what they want. Now, for me, it never really made sense that I have to go out there and bash around on the nodes to go get that, because they're only asking me to go get these and bring them to them. So if I go to another player's shop or whatever and he has the materials there, or get them given by a guild member, that should also count. What's your take on stuff like that? Just on a side note, because that's always bugged me.
I'm sorry, I completely zoned out.
You completely zoned out?
I had a brain fart and completely zoned out.
Okay, so in previous MMOs, there's always been these quests where they ask you to go gather materials. Go get materials and bring them to us.
Yep,
but you had to go and harvest them.
Right.
You couldn't go to a different player and say, hey, give me 10 of your wood, mate, and give me 10 stone and 10 this and 10 that, and go turn it in. What's your take on that? Stepping aside from this topic for a quick little bit, because that's something that is definitely interesting as well.
It's another one of those things where it's forcing me to do something.
Exactly.
I mean, granted, I'm a little juvenile when it comes to this, where somebody forces me to do it, I'm just going to sit on my ass and not do it just out of spite.
Because at the end of the day, the way I look at it, I always thought, hang on a minute, how the hell do you know that I went and actually gathered this? That I didn't go and buy it from a merchant? You didn't follow me.
Are you watching me?
Yeah, you didn't follow me. But yeah, I think they should be. They should have a smarter way to do something like that.
Right.
That's what I see. Those quests should be optional ways to go about it.
Right. I mean, that's it. I mean, if I was a crafter and I was doing a quest where it said kill goblins, well, even though I'm not an adventurer, maybe I just don't like that at all. There's no reason I can't be like, hey, if you help me with this, I'll make you a helmet.
Yep. Or instead of going to kill goblins, you have to go get goblin bones. All right. Go. What's there to say that maybe I'm really just focused on the crafting aspect of the game and the harvesting aspect of the game for whatever reason? What's there to say that I can't go to a merchant or to another player and say, hey, I need 15 goblin bones. Can you give me them? You turn those in. Boom, you've done the quest as well. You just went and took a different approach. So that's another thing that I would definitely like to see.
Yeah. Yeah, I would like to see... Well, I think that comes more into quest design, really.
Yep. But anyway, let's get back on topic.
Yeah.
Can you speak a little bit about node dispersion and availability in game? Their basic approach is to make it a bit more rarer than it's usually been. And I'm perfectly fine with that. There shouldn't be nodes all over the place. I'm sorry, stones just don't grow out the ground and, voila, you can mine me. Or fish ain't going to jump out everywhere, and obviously trees are, forests are going to be forests. There's going to be trees everywhere. But, it should be scattered around. This set of trees is going to commonly be around this area. And the same with, the animals that you can skin. If you need to go get bear hides and it's winter, bears hibernate in winter. They're going to be more scarce for you to get, which makes absolutely sense.
It does. Or if, you need to get polar bear hides, well, shouldn't they be somewhere cold?
Exactly. You might have to travel longer distances to get them.
Right.
Gathering certain plants. They're out of season. They don't blossom. Or, hey, it's been pouring with rain, or it's a storm out there. They're soaked through. You can't use them. They're too soggy. Stuff like that. And I think that's
story of my life.
But yeah, and they're basically going to take an approach of keeping an eye on it, how they disperse the spawn rates and everything, to try and find that sweet spot, which is perfectly fine. I
know I say a lot that balance is a very important and very difficult thing to do, and I'm just going to say it again because it really is. Too many nodes, and you're flooding the economy. Not enough, and it's either going to be insanely expensive, to where you might as well just do it yourself, or people are just going to skip it altogether.
But there's something I definitely do want to see. I want to see this be a rare occasion where it makes sense. If I'm going to go chop down, I want to chop down a certain tree, maple wood or oak wood or whatever. It has to be where oak is.
Right. That kind of makes sense.
Stones and stuff like that have to be either in caverns, caves, or on the outskirts of big, massive mountains and stuff like that. Certain special rocks and gems have to be at the designated area.
Yeah. With this, the one thing I'd love to say is, for the love of everything that is unholy, don't have nodes with the exact same model all the time, just different tints to them. Make different shapes. For the love of God, I am so tired. No, I am sick and tired of seeing the same old WoW iron node that's just been reskinned and put over here and slightly rotated.
Or in EQ2, you always have the ones that look like scones.
You could,
or you got the little stick huts. They're always the same.
Well,
it's like.
And the one thing that I wanted to say, in addition to that, is if they do go the node way, is have them match the area you're in. You're not going to find elephants on the outside of the houses. The outside of the villages. So why are you finding elephant meat there?
Right.
I mean, at least make it make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sadly,
that kind of stuff, when I see it, all I think is, wow, how lazy are they?
Well, obviously it comes down, it is a convenience at the end of the day, but it's a way to, make it identifiable. But, the thing is as well, though, what I would expect to happen, though, is if they do make, different shapes and different sizes, then that should also reflect on how much I can gather from that.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a larger rock that I'm going to be mining, it would give me a bigger yield. It would give me more to mine. If it's a smaller one, it would give me less. I would love to see something like that. But you're absolutely right. Make it different. But obviously still identifiable to one.
Right, and have it make sense. You're not going to find certain rocks in certain areas. You're going to find volcanic rocks near volcanoes.
Yeah.
You're not going to find them where there's not a volcano.
You're not going to find a big chunk of iron ore on the beach.
Yep.
Exactly. So I mean, just at least have it make sense. Have oak be found in the forests, not in the desert.
Right.
Just things like that.
Yeah. So let's go and I'm going to jump forward a bit because this kind of touches on this, and then we'll go back again. Will harvest nodes reflect zone level, or will the nodes be more of a type per zone and level doesn't factor in? Currently, we're leaning toward the former more than the latter. Let's take wood cutting as an example. It's far more believable that you would find oak trees to cut where oak trees grow. Over oak is a tier 3 material. Therefore, only level 30 zones have oak trees in them. We understand where designing materials by level has an appeal. Sticking with the hypothetical oak example, in Pantheon, where you might utilize oak across a level spectrum, comes down to how the oak is treated or finished. One treatment might yield a tier 3 item, whereas another yield a tier 4, or any other tier for that matter. I dig that. I like that. We kind of had a discussion about this prior to going live. My understanding is basically that oak's oak, and it's basically not tiered to a certain level. You have different yields of it, different treatments of it, like they mentioned. I think that's great.
Yeah.
Oak's not going to be bad at level 50, or any worse at level 50. Oak's a pretty stable wood. And that's how it should go with all the other mining. That's one thing that's always bugged me in MMOs, is that the older stuff is never needed anymore.
Right.
You had your tier 1, your tier 2, your tier 3. It then became it was a pain in the ass at the end of the day. It was a means to an end to advance. And nothing more. Once you got out of that tier, it wasn't needed anymore. Why shouldn't I need that copper later on down the road? At level 50.
Tell you what,
or at level
if I'm
30.
a blacksmith, I'm always going to need iron for something.
And that kind of gives me hope that basically it doesn't matter if it's tier 1 or tier 5 or tier 3. You're going to be able to utilize it throughout your crafting experience, throughout your harvesting experience, throughout your adventuring experience. There might be items out there still at level 50 that require oak, or require copper, or require tin, and so forth, or give you certain advantages or certain sockets that you could add to it, which is great. I really do like that. It's a slightly different approach than what we're typically known for.
No, I've got no arguments with that at all.
Yep. So, Shai, you got anything to add?
Nope.
Okay. So,
you stole all my stuff, so.
If someone harvests a node, will other players still be able to harvest it? Will their locations be randomized when they respawn? we kind of touched on this a bit.
Please let them be randomized.
When it comes to harvesting nodes, we're currently aiming for the first come, first served. This way we can keep a better eye on how rapidly materials are entering and leaving the economy. In the event we do end up allowing for group harvesting, which is the next location we're going to touch on, we might consider allowing multiple players to interact with the same node within a brief window of time before it despawns though. Harvesting nodes locations will be randomized. While we're still in the early stages of prototyping harvesting, we've already got a pretty decent amount of flexibility as far as how and when we can determine node spawns. I'm perfectly fine with that.
It's pretty standard stuff.
Yep.
To be honest. I mean, with most crafting nodes, you would basically designate an area and say this is for this stuff. So it spawns randomly within the circle.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
I just hope that these
no
circles...
surprise.
I just hope that these circles are slightly larger. You know, in all the other
I just hope
MMOs...
they play smartly.
Yeah, place them smartly and have, you know, larger areas where they can spawn. Because they're talking about having them being rarer. So there's not so, you know, you don't run every 3 meters and boom, 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 harvest a tree or gather a, you know, mine a stone or everything like that. Have them spread out on a larger radius that makes sense. You know, with the randomization as well. And, you know, touching back on what you said as well, Lex, have the randomization be that random that, hey, maybe next time it yields a bigger stone to mine. Or a smaller stone to mine. Or, you know, a larger tree or whatever, however they're going to do it. Now, fishing, mining, skinning has always been A-OK as far as I'm concerned. When it comes to any MMO out there, you have this little rock that you can mine, or this animal you can skin, or the fish that are in the water. The one that really bugged me is the trees. You would see logs on the floor and you would go and chop them down. It kind of didn't really immerse properly. Everything else was basically how it kind of should have been. So I would like to see trees be something that we can interact with. Certain trees can be chopped down and that's your wood cutting. Rather than having these logs on the floor that you can gather that are around a oak tree or something like that. What's your say on that, Lex?
It's like I'm making fun of Moko.
Well, I'll just pipe in real quick and say I think it would be awesome if they did have trees like they did in Vanguard that you would actually chop down that looked like trees rather than logs.
Yeah.
But it would be fun every once in a while, you know, if you could have something that wasn't happy you're chopping down their tree. Like a dryad, or perhaps a very angry bee nest, or a woodpecker, or something that goes, dude, this is my house.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know?
Have these fairies come down at you and... Bzzz!
Exactly.
Or a brownie or something.
Yeah, I mean, it would just be nice to have like a random thing pop out of a tree and going, dude, this is my house. What are you doing?
Yeah. You know, that comes into the fun aspect of things, you know, I did not expect this to happen.
Now,
I mean, it would just be nice
not
to
saying
do
this
something.
kind of thing would happen a lot, though. It'd be
Have it be a very random thing.
Yeah, and they
just
could
one in a million chance kind of deal, and just like.
And they could even have. And they could even have ways for you to reconcile, to make good at what you did. You know, it's a mini game. You know, you chop down this tree, it's somebody's house. You've now got a certain time period to help him maybe relocate or something like that. Yeah, or they could
be the start of a quest.
Exactly. Cool ideas. Lex, you want to finish your thought there? I kind of chopped in.
Static is boring.
Yeah.
If you have the same static node, that nothing really happens to it. Like, we'll take WoW, for example, because it's the first one that really did it. You mine your node of iron, and then it just disappears. Well, why doesn't it break apart? Why doesn't it do something? Why doesn't it just, like, even shrink as I'm hitting it? You know, the same we said with a tree. If I'm chopping a tree, why is it that there's not even a leaf falling off of it? You know, why is even with like with EQ2, all the branches, you had to find the branches on the floor. It's like, well, but there's a perfectly fine tree right here. And I tell you what, there's a lot more wood in that tree than there is in that tiny little branch. And I need a lot of wood to finish this crafting. So why can't I chop down the tree? You know, it's one of those things, that spectrum of, you know, too lifelike and not lifelike enough. This goes in the not lifelike enough. Because if I hit something sharp like a tree, or something, if I hit something like a tree with something sharp, oh God, English, where did you go? Something should happen. Just something. You expect something to happen. And from a programmer's point of view, that's not easy to do. It's kind of a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
But again, as I've said before, it's the little extra mile that you're willing to go that makes you better than the crowd. It's not a super compelling story. It's not some amazing mechanic. It's not some super crazy graphics. It's the little things that you do over the competition.
Exactly. So let's go and move on. Are certain harvesting materials rare or found in specific locations? And their short answer is both. Many of those will be found by where they geographically make sense. Absolutely right. There's going to be a good bit of the world that has zone or region specific materials. Absolutely fine with that, you know. That makes absolute sense. And regardless of their location, there will certainly be some rare harvesting materials. The best crafted or upgraded items will require rare materials. Absolutely right. You know, there's nothing to disagree with there. That's absolutely well thought through. You know, that's how it should be. It's exciting to hear that there's going to be zone or region specific materials. That hints at our fear of having it spread out all over the place. You know, the more common stuff like oak trees, like they mentioned earlier on, in a forest where there's, you know, or in a zone where there's a forest, a normal forest, there might be oak trees. So it should be, you know, that should be a more common thing. But maybe in the lava areas, you have only this certain type of tree, and you can only get that from there, or the iced areas where you get the snow trees, you know, the Christmas tree thingies, the cone trees, and whatever you call them. I'm sorry, I'm having the same problem as Lexa.
Pine trees.
Pine trees. There you go. You know, stuff like that.
Conifers.
Yep. So
see, at least you can pull the whole bilingual confusion thing.
But he uses that a lot.
Actually,
he uses that for stuff that has nothing to do with talking.
Actually, you know, ever since I've, you know, been doing the VoT stuff, my language that I've been growing up with, German, has actually kind of lost its touch with me. I now have actually trouble communicating in German as well now, because I spend more time speaking English. I speak English at home, speaking English here with you guys and everything. It's terrible. I need to find a nice fine balance.
There's only two hand signals you ever need. This and this.
So anyway, what's being done to make sure that nodes aren't bottlenecked? Will there be multiple ways to acquire a certain material? And their answer is absolutely great, and it kind of touches on a few of our harvesting abilities. You're a crafter, a tailor for instance, and you need Ute to craft whatever, yeah? You could basically either go out and gather it from Ute plants, or you can salvage by tearing apart basic cloth goods that are made with that component. You can scavenge, dig through containers and stuff and find piles of raw Ute or cloth and everything. Or you could basically go and do the adventuring side of things, where you go and take down NPCs that possess those items if you're an adventurer. And that's absolutely great. They're looking at multiple ways for you to go about your business. You don't just there's not one way to get this material. You know, we talked about this quite a long time ago. Certain NPCs would mine ore and hide those, like you mentioned earlier on. You know, through the perception, you find this monster that's hoarding this rare material or whatever, or this material. That can happen. So there has to be multiple ways for you to engage in it. And I like the fact that salvaging and scavenging is also going to add to that component, which they already mentioned earlier on. But, you know, that proves how they're trying to really immerse us and give us multiple options on how to engage.
Right. And that's the big key. Like, when you only have one way to do things, you feel like you're on rails. So people get bored. You can only ride the same roller coaster so many times before you're just like, yeah, I think I'll just sit this one out. You know, it's like, take for instance, where you need to get someone some iron ore. They don't care how you get it as long as you get it for them. If you want to go out and get it, fine. If you find it in an instance, great. If you follow a drunken dwarf and steal some from him, sure. You know, that's what makes things interesting. Because Yarn might go out and actually harvest it. Shy might actually go and barter with the locals. Be a social butterfly and sweet talk a gatherer into giving her some.
Hey, back my eyelashes too. It works really well.
That's right. Me, I'll go kill a dwarf and be like, oh, he doesn't have any. Let's try the next one.
You know, though, on that topic, though, what I personally would like to see anyway is at the lowest levels of crafting is to have the low-level harvestables actually be able to be purchased. You know, just the lowest levels. You know, maybe the first 10 levels or so.
It would be nice to help.
So you can harvest as well, but you can also just purchase them, and just that way you have a little bit of a head up.
Right. Yeah. As long as the cost is just right, because I mean it would be a very good primer for those that want to craft.
Yeah, but isn't it?
But
I was just going to say, but hasn't it always been like that though? You've always been able to.
Not always. I mean, like for jute. If jute was the lowest level starting thing, be able to buy some jute off the merchants. You know, or if you
mean the normal merchants.
Right.
Oh,
or
yeah,
if you wanted to go and start adventuring with your friends, and you go, oh, hold on, we're going to harvest some of this because I can use it. That's fine too. But at least that way you have an option at the very beginning to at least get started on crafting.
What about adding? You know, that could also be something that you could seek out to do at the very beginning of your crafting experience. Crafting perception. You know, maybe you have the chance to unlock that feature.
Yeah.
You know, in your starting city, you unlock the you know, through perception, you unlock that there's merchants maybe that can sell you this stuff, and now you have access to them at an early stage. You know, the other person, because that adds to that challenge and that nah, I found a different way to go about it. You know, because
I wouldn't go that far if you value your teeth.
But you know, that's how it is.
I get what you're saying.
You know, people are always, you know, competitive.
Yes,
you know, we're always trying to outdo each other. It's in our nature, and that, you know, especially when it comes to gaming. So that would add to that aspect as well. That's something you could unlock. You know, but I do like your idea in general, having, you know, the starting basic materials. And again, this is something as well where harvesting could come into effect at a very early stage. Maybe the township inform you that, hey, we're low on supplies, or, you know, we have a high demand for this material, that material, you know, blah blah blah. And that's another thing that you could basically do as well, to kind of maybe bring up your faction at an early stage for that city as a harvester, by supplying the city with materials that are bought by us players that go into the economy of the city, that is later utilised by the devs to maybe bring some upgrades to that city. Maybe the city's got enough money now to go and rebuild that damaged outpost, or rebuild that tower that's, you know, falling apart because of a world event that's happened or something like that. So there's definitely ways to go about this and add that in. I definitely like that. That's always something that has bugged me. I do understand why it's done in the past, but if they're talking about full immersion, which they've already obviously stated in this newsletter, especially when it comes to the harvesting, their focus as well to bring a fully immersive experience, that adds to it as well. That crafters can, at the very beginning, first come, first serve. Obviously, you know, the supplies are going to run out at some point. Then it's going to be up to us as players to provide them.
Yeah.
Again.
I mean, personally, I would love to be in my home city, doing my thing, crafting away, run out of materials, and go to the little merchant where I've been buying my stuff and have him look at me and go, you know what? We're running low on this. But tell you what, if you can go and get this for me,
I'll give you half.
I've got some, you know, I'll give you a little bit extra, plus, you know, and I can give you maybe something else that, you know, you can do with the material.
Or, you know, give you alternative materials and stuff like that. You know, that also adds
I would love that.
Definitely. You know, that adds
It would be interesting.
That adds to your perception as well. You know, again, that's where perception can kick in, adding to that experience as a crafter. Basically now, hey, you know, I've seen you regularly. You know, you've been so good to us. You've been gathering materials for us. You know, maybe boom, you get a bump up. Now you've got a better sales price or buy price at that merchant.
Or maybe he's got higher qualities of that particular material too.
Exactly. Or bigger stacks for you. You know,
so maybe instead of a stack of 20, maybe you can get a stack of 50.
Exactly.
Maybe.
Have that tiered up as well. I would love to see something like that, where you could buy different kinds of stacks. Wholesale.
But have it depend on faction and your perception.
And your perception and stuff like that. Yeah, definitely. Really cool ideas there. So this is a big one. In the past, you said you weren't sure if there will be group harvesting. Has anything changed? We've had a few conversations internally about the possibility of allowing for group harvesting. In a game like Pantheon that encourages and rewards participation in social activities, we can see the case being made for extending that to harvesting. Where things get tricky is that when we start allowing players to harvest the same nodes together, we're effectively multiplying the number of raw crafting materials entering the economy. I think it's something we're going to continue discussing, but I don't see us changing our stance on this at the time being. We talked about this prior as well. It's definitely a very tricky situation when it comes to the group harvesting, how it works, what kind of requirements would be needed, and the fact that basically, if we're a group of 6 and we're all harvesting, then obviously, you know, hitting that node, each of us get a piece. It's going to be a very tricky one how to balance that out, because like they said, you know, they want the materials to be more scarce. They want, you know, the nodes to be more random, more scarce as well. They don't want too much flowing in. They do want us, obviously, you know, the harvesters to supply the demand for the economy, but they don't want it flooded where it becomes obsolete, more or less, where material loses its core value. So I would in some way like to see group harvesting. Shy, I think it was Shy who touched, or was it you, Lex, who touched on some problems with the group harvesting?
I think that was Shy.
No, it's probably me.
Yeah, can you?
I really didn't like it in Vanguard. I mean, I just hated it.
Yeah, can you explain to us again how it was?
Well, basically, from what I remember, you know, you would have a bunch of people harvesting on the same node, and it would pretty much, as they were saying, it would multiply the amount that you would get, and it was a hassle. It was just such a pain in the butt, because you'd get mobs that would come in and you'd have to fight off the mobs, and then the node timer's ticking, and it's just, it wasn't worth it.
So I'm sure there
really
are definitely most probably alternative ways to go about the group harvesting. It doesn't necessarily have to be, if we're 4 people or 6 or 3 or 2 or whatever doing the group harvesting, it doesn't necessarily have to be the case that we all get raw materials. Lex gets 5, Shy gets 5, I get 5. But you still want to have a bonus for this. Maybe at the end, when that node depletes, that's where we get the bonus. Maybe that node has 10 materials in it. Once those 10 are gone, they're gone. So it doesn't matter if I've done it by myself and got the 10, or we've done it as a group and we've got, Shy got 4, Lex got 3, I got 3. At the end maybe they could add a bonus of sorts or something like that to it to kind of balance that out, and the fear for having a flood of materials flow in, and the risk again as well. The way I see it, Landmark had group harvesting, period. It was in there. The buggy thing about that, the thing that really bugged me was you're in a group. Some of us were fending off the monsters while the other gathered. It flew into everybody's pocket though. Even though I didn't technically go and pick or mine or chop down that. The way I would like to see, if they did have group harvesting, is those that are harvesting reap the benefits, and at the end basically it's something that we would as a group would basically go about and say, hey, we're going to go and split this now. You'd have like maybe 3 people trying to fend off the monsters or keep them away from Lexa and Shy doing the gathering, something like that around those areas. And maybe that's where the buffs and enhancement could come into play on a more frequent way.
Yeah.
For a group to harvest, or for having group harvesting, you have a higher chance of getting a buff that's beneficial for the group harvesting aspect of things.
Honestly, I see so many issues that it would have to be resolved with group harvesting. My recommendation would be don't even bother. Don't even bother, because you can very quickly, as a developer, be basically stuck in a whirlpool of issues. Yeah. And this is one of those things where there is a lot of potential just to be going round in a circle.
And
trying to get it right.
Yeah, and the problem that they also have is them wanting to have the material or the nodes be rare, and the flow of materials going into the economy kind of
restricted, or at least
controlled, balanced, restricted, however you want to call it,
right,
makes it an issue.
It does.
Unless they had caverns that you could unlock, hidden forests that you could find, stuff like that, or a hidden pond or sea or something like that, something that is really hidden that would depend on you having a group that is going to go harvest, a certain perception, or a higher perception level for you to actually go and find that. That's the only way I could see something like that happen, is that you have maybe we're in this dungeon or this cavern or this cave or whatever, spelunking, going around. We have somebody in the group that has a higher perception. You can see that this rock is vulnerable. He bashes it down, it opens up a cave where there's a lot more material in there than there usually is. That's the only way I could see the group harvesting then come into effect, because you go in there, you do your round, you got your materials, you go back out.
Right. The big glaring issue actually stems from group harvesting and not doing it. Mm-hmm. If you have a group that requires you to get there, what if they're all gatherers? How do you ensure that everyone has at least a fair shot at getting something? Whereas, if we were just in a dungeon and there happened to be a node there, and are you guys gatherers? Yeah, we're all gatherers. Okay. It comes down to you and your group to decide how you want to do it. If someone's greedy, that's probably an indication that you don't want to be around them anymore. Let's go ahead and block that person and just get through this little dungeon and then never speak of it again.
What about taking a different approach to this whole thing?
How so?
You know, don't have the raw materials multiply. Like I mentioned before, you have because you've always got that person in the group who, on your journey from location A to location B, stops for every single tree, for every single rock, for every single skinning, for every single fish. You've always got that person in your group. There's always somebody
Not
there
for long.
who wants to harvest.
Are you talking about me?
No, I'm one of those as well. You know, if I see a nut, I'm going to run after it. I'm one of those. You know, I'm guilty as charged as well. But maybe there's a way of doing this. Maybe the group harvesting is something that is toggled from the group. You know, it's toggled on or off. That group harvesting is available. But basically what happened then is, we're in a group, me, you and Shy. We're going from location A to location B to go and do our adventuring stuff. But on that path, there's nodes and everything. Shy goes and mines all those nodes. Now, they're spread out evenly amongst us. Even if we don't mine them, as long as we're in a certain radius, we get the goods as well. But there isn't a multiplication on it. If that node only has 5, then that 5 is going to get split up between us 3. The person doing the mining or doing the skinning or doing the gathering, etc., would get then, because it's a number that can't be divided by 3, she would get 2 or 3, and we would get basically 1 and 1. You know, that's how I could see that working without any issue whatsoever. That's the only way I could see that working, is in a certain radius. If somebody's gathering, mining, skinning, wood cutting, and it's toggled on within the group option, then we all get a piece of that mining, or that wood, or that you know, skin that can be skinned, etc. That's the only way I could see that, and it would kind of balance everything out, because you're not throwing more into the world. You're just spreading it evenly out. Now Shy's not getting it all. We all are getting it. So, you know, she's shit out of luck.
Right.
Everybody's getting a piece of it. Because it does kind of make sense somewhere as well. When you're in a group and... Go on.
If you do group harvesting, we'll call it, the only way you can make it work is if it is incredibly managed by the system.
Yeah.
Because if there's even a hint of it not being fair, I can see it causing more problems than solving.
But is my option fair, though? Do you think it's fair in that sense?
If I get more, then yeah.
The person doing the mining would basically, if it's an odd number, the person doing the mining would get more. It would still be spread out evenly. If that node has 7, then Lex would get 2, I would get 2, and Shy would get, you know, 3.
Why not just say that if it's in a dungeon where you should probably be grouped, the nodes work a little differently. When you mine it, you get however many people are in your group, and everybody gets one.
Yeah.
This would be, again, highly managed. I don't personally like it, but it might be a way to keep people from losing their minds.
Yeah. Now that's a way. That's the easiest and most comfortable way to go about it. And again, have it be something that can be toggled by the group leader. Do we have group harvesting on or off? Make it optional.
Right.
That's how I would basically go about it. Anyway,
I'd be fine with that because honestly, I'm going to be a realist here and assume that just like every past experience, I will not be a crafter, I will not be a gatherer. Please prove me wrong. Mine will be my group harvesting will be turned off because in my mind, if you're a harvester, take it.
Yeah. Anyway. This last portion of the harvesting update has got me really excited. There's been talk about items other than nodes being harvestable. What might those be? In addition to harvesting opportunities, we're going to be adding several instances in our world where players can find and pick up items from the world. Some examples would be like picking up a weapon from a rack. a potion from a shelf, or sneaking some coins off a merchant's table. Just don't get caught. Since we're doubling down on putting the environment front and center of players' PvE experiences in Pantheon, it seems only fitting that we reward players a bit for paying attention to their surroundings. Also, we just think it's cool and immersive to be able to pick up actual items in the world. Some items will be super rare or are only available once certain events have occurred in the zone. I love that.
I love that last part.
That is...
Well, you know, it reminds me of EQ2 a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, because there were certain items in dungeons that were lootable that you could pick up, like rugs or tapestries. Things like that. And I thought that was so nice because we would, oh gosh, we would sit there and argue back and forth over who got it.
That was basically the time when they updated and brought in all the traps and puzzles into the dungeons. You know, and those are the things that we dig. Those are the things that, you know, make us yearn for, hey, remember that time we were in the dungeon and Alexa picked up that rug and I wanted it and it's not there anymore? Next got that rug, or you know, that time we ran into the traps. We didn't, you know, we thought our ranger was skilled enough. We thought, you know, we were, you know, the ranger was skilled enough, and we all died. You know, those are the things that, you know, we want to see again.
Unfortunately, I don't like the idea of having to being able to pick up stuff on a weapon rack. But here's why. Because that's what Elder Scrolls Online does. If you see a weapon on a weapon rack, you can grab it. You see a potion on a counter, you can grab it. Now here's the bad part. That game turned me into a gigantic freaking klepto. I stole everything that wasn't nailed down. My bag space was full. I ended up deleting most of it, and I still couldn't stop.
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's not overdone, and it's only certain things that can be done, I'm kind of fine with it. Like you said, Lex, having it be done, you know, everything you can pick up, everything you see, that would just drive me insane.
Yeah,
I am hoping that they will have something along the line, something similar like what you were saying. But what I'd like to see is maybe seeing a pile of, like a chair, but not taking the chair, just finding out that, you know, the chair's falling apart and you can take some wood off of it. Mm-hmm. Or you can, or you walk past an old beam and you find that there's some nails, so you can get some metal pieces off.
Yeah.
You know, things like that. I mean, I'd like to see something a little bit different, rather than the potion, klepto, coins, klepto.
Yeah.
You know, just be able to get like actual crafting components rather than the, you know, potion of healing. Oh my!
Yeah, instead of a potion, it's a potion glass that you can use to fill with a potion. But yeah, I mean, having certain things like that be out there in the world, and by the sounds of it, it's also going to be something you have to pay attention to. Not everybody's going to see it, which is good.
Right.
Keep it something, you know, keep it something that we, you know, have to go out, and if you really pay attention and you use your mouse and you go over the screen, you know, pixel by pixel, to see if there's something clickable, I'm fine with it. Or add that to the perception. The better your perception is, the better you take an awareness of when you enter a room or an area.
I mean, I'd love to, you know, for instance, if we were grouping and we were on our way to go to a dungeon or something and we happened by an old abandoned campsite and suddenly, you know, you can go, oh, hey, look, there's a piece of rare wood there I can pick up that somebody had used as an inlay on a chair or something.
Yeah. But I would
just have it, boom.
But I would love to have the chance to wreak rewards out of the dungeon. Mm-hmm. To steal something out of there. To put into my house or into my guild hall or whatever I've got. You know, to kind of show off that, hey, I went into Haunier's cave and I stole this weird looking skull head or this weird painting out of Black Rose Keep. Or this...
So we basically want trophies in the guild hall.
Oh, well, you know, it's fun. You know, if I'm going to go and
There's always stories attached to that stuff.
Raid Black Rose Keep. I want to take something with me other than just the rewards from the NPCs, you know? I want to steal that fancy looking painting or that crate or something like that. You know, that chest that looks pretty nice. And maybe maybe that chest has, like, you know, 2 storage spaces on it. Woohoo!
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing with the trophies is that they're there. They don't technically serve a purpose.
Yeah.
But they're there forever. They're always technically in use in a guild hall, in your house, whatever. Whereas the gear from a dungeon, more often than not, don't last that long. You know, it's basically wear it, get the next piece, throw it away.
Yep.
So there is something to be said about those trophies.
Definitely.
But again, the last thing I want is to have this ESO experience. This is one of the main reasons why I dislike ESO, is because think of it, a cartoon backdrop in the middle of a town, and you see a character running with just piles and piles of stuff, and garbage gets together, and you just go, I'm sorry, I can't stop myself. That's me.
You have Lexa running out of Black Rose Keep, and behind him the entire zone is chasing him because, hey, he stole our stuff.
You know, get it right though, Yarn. Get it right. You know he wouldn't be able to run that fast because his pockets would be too full, and they would catch him and squash him like a bug.
And then again, you guys would get threatened.
But again, you know, also having that experience though, into some case, I would love to see that, especially in the starting cities or the racial towns. But the thing is, if you get caught stealing, you're not just going to get beat down. You're going to get tossed in jail.
Oh God, how much
already happened in the ESO.
You know, that would be great though. I would love to see that happen. You get caught stealing, and you get and you can bail them out, or you can basically let him rot. I would love to see that.
That's not fair because you guys rot.
But you know, on that note though, Lex, what would be a fair equivalent that isn't damaging to the player or to the game itself? What would be a fair time period for somebody being locked away? Because we talked about this previously in other shows as well, being, you know, where you feel immersive with the city, and the city has stuff like that lore and order and all that kind of crap. What would be an equivalent? What would be a fair equivalent of being locked away, where you can't interact with the game unless you're bailed out?
None, because it should drop you into a cell, and that cell should be a puzzle.
Or that would also be a good thing as well.
Wasn't there a cat room in EQ? The gym cat room or something?
Mm-hmm. The base of the timeout room.
Yeah, or you could have maybe a choice. Maybe you can choose your punishment, like somebody said in chat. They take away all the stolen goods and a small fine. That's option 1. No, that's the easy route.
Okay, I go down swinging every time. I don't care if it was a piece of bread. And it's mine now.
And now you talk about swinging. Now, basically, that's your easy route. They take away everything. You get a slap on the wrist. You pay a fine. It's not a small fine. It's a bigger fine. That's the easiest thing. The second one is you get put in prison. There's a puzzle for you to kind of get yourself out. And you lose a bit of reputation. Exactly. And the third option, and the third option is Lex's. He doesn't want to go down fighting. Boom.
Oh no, I do.
You have to take on the biggest, baddest police, Scar or Arkai or Darkmere, and it's a battle to the death. Either you win or you lose. That's basically the third option. I would love to see something like that.
Oh, I'd love to see that.
Here's the sad thing, though. Because of just how I am when I play these games, it doesn't matter if my repairable is going to equal up to like 1,000 gold pieces. And what I stole was only worth 1. It's mine now. You can't have it. Come try and take it.
You would swallow it first.
So...
Oh, I'd shove it somewhere else first.
I'm sure you would, yeah.
Come here, Shy!
Hold this for me.
Shy, any questions from chat?
Well, we had 2. Hyper Crush wanted to know, How do you feel about separate craft bags, which hold higher stacks of respective materials, like an herb bag that only holds herbs but can hold more of them than a regular bag?
I would love to see something along the lines where you have your normal bags and you have your harvesting bags.
I would love it.
The thing is, it was done in previous games, but it was done poorly. You know,
yeah, if they could do it correctly, that would make my little OCD heart so happy.
Because I think that's how it should be. I should have a backpack, basically, that holds my normal stuff, and I have my other backpack that holds my harvest stuff. You know, keeps it nice and tidy.
Alternatively, I'd like to be able to set up my backpacks so that certain items can go in.
But
can go in certain bags. So
you guys aren't going to like me.
But hey, this comes back to my pack pony. I want my pack pony. He can carry all my stuff.
I thought Lex was your pack pony.
Go on, Lex.
So, only until he realized I was fencing it.
Go on, Lex. What are you going to say? We don't like you?
I don't think there should be. You don't see people walking down the street with multiple backpacks on. They're usually carrying a backpack. Because that's what you carry. Now, just because mine's full of gear that's going to help me kill everything in the world, doesn't mean that you, because you're a gatherer, should get a fancy inventory system so you don't have to spend as much time working on your inventory as I do.
Well, I'm gonna.
But it is shoved into the backpack.
Actually, let's take this into a different account. Let's view this from a different perspective, real life perspective. Your trade. Now, your carpenter is going to have carpenter clothes on with carpenter tools. So technically your harvester should have a harvesting bag, your crafter should have his crafting stuff on, and your adventurer will look like your adventurer. Maybe you can determine yourself. Maybe you can display yourself, how your trade is. Are you an adventurer? Are you a harvester? Are you a crafter? And obviously depending on what you've picked prior to all this, creating your character, you then have different options of the way you look.
Well, okay, here's the thing. They have said before that with Pantheon, being prepared is going to be beneficial for you. So if you're going to go gathering, empty your bag.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Prepare for what you're doing. Don't give them a separate bag, because that means they can still carry a whole crap ton of stuff. If I want to go adventure and I'm carrying 7,000 pieces of iron ore, whoops.
But, you know, the whole...
Maybe I should learn.
But, Shai, let's be honest, though. The reason this comes into perspective for us is for the fact that in...
Or harvest junkies.
No, not just that. The fact was that, you know, the games that we played, the MMOs, they didn't offer the options that we have nowadays. Where you could sort the bag, where you could have only this goes into this bag, only that goes into this bag. At the end of the day, Lex, you're absolutely right. You know, this is fluff. We don't really need it. It would come down to the fact of add these options in from the get-go, that we can basically organize our bags how we please. We can say only this goes into this bag, only that goes into this bag, etc., etc. Let us name our bags so we have a better overview of, you know, what's going in where, so we can, you know, faster open up and pick out the stuff. Personally,
even back in the day before we had all that, I was still going through and organizing my bags and putting everything goes.
Everybody does it
into the last bag. This potions go in my second bag to the left.
Yeah. Now, see, I agree with Dayhawk. I agree with him 100%. Mark the calendar, because that shit's probably going to have a... Sorry, I swore. My bad.
Isn't this the second time you've agreed? Never mind, sorry.
I don't know. Yeah, if there was a separate harvesting bank slot or tab, that's fine.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because that's not being carried around with me. That's not mobile storage. Mobile storage needs to stay valuable. Adding a whole inventory for your harvesting stuff that removes the value of your inventory, in my opinion.
Well, with me, I mean, I had an old boyfriend a long time ago who used to go camping. You know, he would go like far off camping. What's it, cross country camping? I think it's called. And he would have his great big
whatever I don't do.
Yeah, he would have this great big backpack on, but he'd also have stuff, all kinds of different bags attached to his belt. He'd have all kinds. I mean, so he had tons of extra storage.
But
so I mean, I can kind of see it going that way. With
it's the same. It's the same with groceries, though. At least for me, this is what I do when I go grocery shopping. I have a bag for stuff for the fridge. I have a bag for the stuff that goes into the bathroom. I have a bag for frozen goods. I split it up straight away after I've done my shopping. So it's, you know, faster organisable, it's faster put in. So, you know, there are pros and cons for this. There are reasons for, there are reasons against this. You know, because we do organise. I've got 2 different toolboxes, for instance. In the one toolbox is my everyday tools. In the other toolbox is my more advanced tools that I only use when I'm doing drywalling or when I'm putting tiles on. This, that, and the other. You know, so we do organise just as we do in real life. You know, we organise everything. You know, it's the same with your hard drives, Lex. Your hard drives are organised. On this hard drive, only stuff goes on from your private stuff. On the other hard drive. So there are pros and cons and reasons for and against this.
Sure. But you know, I'm all for quality of life. I'm not for making things easy.
Oh, definitely.
Quality of life to me would be giving you a harvesting materials section in the bank. That's fun. Because if I ever use it, it'll go there. For my backpack space, that's prime real estate. I don't want to... If I'm stuck to 10 slots, I can only carry 10 things. Why? Because this person enjoys something I find utterly boring. Why do they get double the slots? You know? That's making things easy. They should have to deal with the same amount of slots as I do. Because should this system become something I want to take part in, I still have to deal with that challenge myself.
Well, what about then? Because, okay, I see where you're getting from. You're upset because the harvester gets an additional bag, which I understand is absolutely right. What about then going this route?
It doesn't have to be an additional bag. It can be in place of one.
Yeah, but let's say the harvester forgot that bag. Now he's shit out of luck and can't gather any materials. He's now in the same predicament as you.
Yeah, I mean, if it works like EverQuest, where like you have your inventory slot, you put the bag in, and there you go, like we've seen in the streams, and that harvesting bag is a metaphysical bag that goes in your inventory. That's got more slots to it, but it can only carry the materials. Then it comes down to the case of, is there weight reduction on it? Because...
Well, if they're herbs, they wouldn't weigh that much anyway.
Well, that's the thing. So you could stack those to high heaven and you're fine. But if you're carrying ore, a lot of people are going to say, well, that needs to have weight reduction. No.
Well, maybe that's a crafting thing. Maybe, you know, that you can, you know, at a certain tier you can have one made.
Or it's something you have to earn.
You see, this is definitely a topic that, you know, where there's no agreement. See, that's why I say pack pony, pack pony, pack pony. I say it again, pack pony.
That way I can tie yarn to it and slap it.
Weren't they discussing having a donkey at some point, or like a pack mule type thing?
Hey, I said that from day one. I said that from day one. That's what I would love to see.
I could have sworn they said something about that at one point, but no.
Any other questions, Shy? You said you had 1 or 2?
Yeah, I've got one more from Vanna Cowboy, who is just asking about like bag size. You know, do you think the bags are going to be big enough? If you go harvest and explore the world, you'll have like 7 tools for harvesting and tools for your job. And if you're a ranger, you have bows and arrows and tools to make the arrows, and extra foraging skill, you need tools, and yada 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 yada. Is there going to be enough room, do you think, for everything?
Again, this could come down to the, you know, a keyring, for instance, for finding keys that go into a keyring. That could be the same with your tools. Instead of them going into your bag, they go into your tool belt. Maybe. That don't necessarily take away your bag space for the goods you really want. You know, the harvestables or you know, the loot from dungeons and stuff. That's a, you know, maybe that's a way of going about it. Putting, you know, having a harvesting belt where your harvesting tool goes on that do not necessarily weigh into your bag space. That's how I would look at it. Like you have a keyring for the different keys that you found, for instance. Next.
I'm sticking to my guns. Same with the bag.
There you have it. There you have it.
Just saying no. It's too easy.
And that was all the questions that I had.
Awesome. So, that brings us to the end of the show. As you can see, there's definitely a lot talked about. A lot of great ideas flowing in. From everyone involved here in chat and everything. And I can't remember what we're doing next week. Do you have it on in your head?
I don't even know what I'm doing tomorrow.
Actually, I think I remember. Let me quickly check to see that I'm not mixing up the calendar dates. But I think next week, if I can find my documents, and let me bring this up. Oh, they changed the frickin'. Ah! Let me access my drive, please.
Don't do it. I'll give you $1.
Oh, my ears.
I think I might owe Google $1.
Let's have a look. I think next week's show. Don't want to mix things up, but where are we? Load faster.
Don't do it. It's a trap.
Yeah, you just want to see if anybody's paying attention.
That's the. Let's have a look. What's the date? That'll be the 26th. Next week we have player Q&A. We will be interviewing Condemned. Sitting down with Condemned and talking to Loudon from the Guild Condemned next week. So look forward to that.
Oh, cool.
And thanks for joining in for this session where we talked about harvesting. And we hope you all enjoyed it. And we wish you all a wonderful weekend. Your final words, Lex?
If you see a halfling, kill it for me.
Shy?
I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend.
And with that, we are out, and we will see you all next Friday for the player Q&A, where we sit down with the Guild Condemned and talk to them a bit about Pantheon and what their plans are. See you all then.
Take care.